Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is the Open Source in Finance podcast from FINOS. I'm Grizz Griswold, head of marketing for FINOS, and this is the FINOS debrief for February. Well, the first week of February 2022. This is also our first podcast of the year. I'm going to do my best to do this as live as possible, going all the way through. So get ready for the folks. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're having a great start to 2022. Let's get rid of the past 2 years, please. Correct? We here at FINOS have been working on strategy for the past couple of months after we finished off with 2 open source strategy forums, both in London and in New York, that were very successful, especially since they were the first in-person events that we've done in 2 years. So thank you for everybody who attended. I'll tell you a little bit more about those soon, and also some announcements coming up. But today, when I'm recording this is February 2nd, 2022, we had our FINOS All Community Call. And during that community call, which we will put the video up pretty soon and then do an audio recording of it also for you folks in Radio Land, we were able to talk to the community. We had a great turnout for the All Community Call, first of all, so thank you for attending that as well. And our team was able to tell you about things that are going on within FINOS. But then we, as always, the best part of the All Community Call is the fact that we have maintainers from our open source projects come and talk about their projects that they've been working on throughout the year. So from the newly formed Compliant Financial Infrastructure project, that used to be our cloud service certification project. Abdullah Garcia from JP Morgan Chase, who's the vice president there, was able to talk about changes to the program there. FDC3, Chris West from Cosaic, who's the principal engineer there, I'm going to make sure that I put links in here so that you can go and listen to him talk, because there's something coming up on the horizon in March for FDC3. Fee Ackland from Goldman Sachs talked about financial object SIG. Arthur Maltson from Capital One and Claire Dillon from InterSource Commons talked about the InterSource SIG. Alvin Shee from Morgan Stanley talked about KDB Plus. And then Olivier Pompinet, who's director of developer relations at Symphony, talked about Symphony BDK and WDK as well. So again, I'm working on the video of that. As soon as that is out, we will put that out, and be sure to look at finos.org for more details soon. Just to let you know, again, February 2nd, we are hiring. We are hiring a marketing manager for FINOS that would be working with me, operational, working with HubSpot, but then talking with our members and also talking with our community and highlighting our projects. So if you have marketing skills, but let me be clear, we are really looking for somebody who understands financial services and technology, preferably looking for somebody who might be doing marketing right now in fintech that can speak the language of finance, but also understands a lot of the needs of the developer and contributor technologist community as well. And then in addition to that, we just put a job description out for a senior technical architect. I will put links into the show notes as usual for that position. I wanted to also let you know that we are growing. We have 2 new members that have signed up in the past month. Fannie Mae, who joined as a gold level member, and also NatWest Markets, who also joined as a gold level member. I will put a link to the press release that talks about, it's a momentum press release, but it also talks about new members as well, and gives some insight as to why Fannie Mae and NatWest joined FINOS. And then in just a moment, I'm going to read and also talk about a couple of things. Our executive director, Gab Columbro, put out a 2022 message a couple of weeks ago. Excuse me, and it highlights a lot of the things that happened in 2021 and looking forward to 2022. So I'll just hit some of the highlights, but I'll put links to that as well as the press release, as I said. And we just put out a video that's around open source readiness panel about risk and opportunity in open source contribution. That is on the website as of right now, and of course, we'll link to that. So I want to tell you a little bit about what our executive director, Gab, had to say. And again, this is more reflective of 2021, but it kind of sets the stage for a lot of the things that we've been doing strategy-wise to push forward to 2022. We made some of those things public today during the all community call, but Gab gave some hints of this in his article entitled "Stars Aligned Last Year for Open Source to Forever Impact Financial Technology in 2022 and Beyond." And something that I'm thinking about doing this year is taking some of our blog posts and actually having audio versions of them. If that is something that is interesting to you, please reach out to us at marketing@finos.org and let us know. All right, so in 2021, looking back, we added 19 new corporate members to the foundation. That was a 34% growth. And we onboarded 11 new projects and special interest groups, almost one a month. And as we continued to deliver many firsts of our young 3.5 years old community, we were able to deliver a State of Open Source and Financial Services report, which we've talked a lot about in this podcast. We are going to do that again this year. Surprise. It was very effective and really informed us first on what our community and outside of the normal FINOS ecosystem, the things that we should be looking at in order to give more value first to our members, but second to the larger open source and financial services community as well. So be on the lookout for that. If you would like to be part of that, if you'd like to be interviewed for part of that or take part in the survey, again, reach out to us at marketing@finos.org. We also introduced our first training through the Linux Foundation, but it was for FDC3 and desktop interoperability. I always wonder if I say that wrong, but it's targeted to both business and technical audiences. So, training is a fundamental driver of adoption of our projects. And so we saw this, keep in mind that this training is free. The certification of it does cost some monies. I'm not even sure what that is, but taking the course is free, and you can learn about FDC3, the standard for desktop interoperability, how it works, and what value it is to you as a business in financial services. And then, let's get into our open source strategy forums. We had one in London in October, and we had one in New York in November. Again, they were hugely successful. I'm going to put links one more time to the videos. The videos that are on YouTube, we will have them up on our website as well. It's taken a little while because we've been a little bit busy, folks. But a couple of things too that in the links I'll put out there is we were able to do event reports from both of these conferences, and we had community award winners that we're able to announce there, which is great. We always want to reward the community for doing their part to build this larger ecosystem within FINOS and outside of FINOS as well. But the kind of cool thing about these reports is we were able to see, first of all, numbers. um, in a time where we have not had a lot of in-person um, events, as obviously. I think I've said before that one of the main values that we found when we did both of these events, both in London. I teared up a little bit after London, I believe, but then in New York as well, was we had the numbers, we had people participating. um, we were able to find out who was from financial services, what level of seniority they were, and it was great to see that we had diversity in the people that spoke there. We had diversity in the people that attended. We also had, diversity in the levels of and areas that people came from. We had technologists this year more so than any other year, as well as call them business decision makers. So we're starting to see that pick up within our community. We're starting to see that pick up in our ecosystem. But it always goes back to this, folks. Though the hallway track in conferences is probably the most important track in a conference. Um, and the amount of connections that are made at an event like this are just astounding. Not only for us, I mean, uh, we were. It seemed like every time we turned around that we were talking to somebody um, about something that they're interested in. How could they learn more? But also, you know, uh, how can they contribute to the community? Um, whether that's on a project level. We had several members offer up space for meetups for this coming year for in person. And so for us within FINOS, that was great. But I think what we saw is that masks on, there are people talking with each other, and we know a lot of people that come to our conferences, and it was pretty amazing to see that you had people talking from different companies about a myriad of things. That may all sound a little dumb the more that I say it this way, but I guess what I'm getting to is the experience that you have when you're on the ground and can talk to other humans is incredible, and especially like we really saw some good things come out of both of these conferences that are sparking right now and starting to continue and warm up, and you'll see those come out more and more in 2022. That was my whole point of that. Thanks. Um, so we also had regulators on stage at OSSF. The head of innovation for FDIC, Sultan Meji, he promoted the concept of open source regulation as a fundamental. It was a fundamental breakthrough, um, for us as a foundation that we need the regulators to understand open source and financial services. We need to understand we need them to understand the power that there is in that, and that our members and financial institutions, more and more are starting to figure that out as well. But we feel that if we can help regulators see the power of open source within financial services and see the secure um, you know collaboration innovation that comes out of it, then it helps the entire financial services ecosystem, and especially in the tech sense. So we have developed last year an open RegTech initiative. I'll put a link to that as well. That will be one of the initiatives that we highlight this year in 2022. Um, and then wanted to point out too that we have an LFX platform that was rolled out by the Linux Foundation, I believe this past year. But it has things like Easy CLA that helps the process of licensing for financial services firms and our other members as well, be able to allow their people to actually start contributing to our open source projects. There's insights. You can learn about the entire FINOS community and what is going on. You can see the leaderboard and see who is actually contributing, to FINOS projects. And then you can, for your own individual corporation, you can actually see, what your people are doing as well, contributing to different open source projects through FINOS and through the Linux Foundation. And our contributor strength is growing, and we're seeing this because we can actually track it too. It grew 30% last year. We now have over 1,200 contributors. It's an unprecedented 7 out of 10 top contributors are coming from financial institutions. That was not the case 3 years ago when we started all this. I won't talk about our podcast, and I do thank Gab for going through it, but I did want to talk about and thank you for listening, by the way. I hope you're enjoying your workout right now, especially you, Kevin. But Legend was awarded the best fintech partnership in 2021 by Banking Tech, and that was obviously a partnership between the work that's being done from Goldman Sachs and FINOS, but then the entire Legend team that is growing. You'll see more and more of that this year. Again, it's another one of our projects that we'll be spending some more time on. Gab does have some more other information. A lot of it talks about the Linux Foundation going to the White House and discussing security concerns as well. A lot of it was, of course, prompted by the Log4j, Log4Shell vulnerability. But what we're seeing every single day, we're seeing more and more vulnerabilities that are coming up. And I won't go too much into detail to it. The Linux Foundation is addressing this as a foundation. The other OSSF, the Open Source Security Foundation, was actually set up this past year in order to concretely address a lot of the security concerns that many of our members and of course outside are feeling by looking and seeing vulnerabilities in all software, vulnerabilities in open source software. How do you deal with that? How do you mitigate the risk? How do you stop it before it starts if it's possible? So we have also been working with our partners to work on. We already have a lot of security that's built into what we do, but in the next month or so, we will start putting out more information about FINOS projects and security, but then also what our members can do, and how they can work with us, how they can work with other foundations, how they can other things, best practices, but more so than best practices, how to really apply security mitigation techniques to what you do on a daily basis. And sometimes that isn't just on the technical side. Some of that's on the training side. Some of that is, I think that Jim Zemlin, executive director of the Linux Foundation, the way that he put it was, in most computer science degrees, that you go through your 3-4 years, whatever it is, and that we've not been able to find a single degree program that's out there right now that actually requires you to take a secure coding course. That's a problem that's not open source. That's a problem that's industry wide, and more so than the industry. It's the entire ecosystem of technologists. So anyway, Gab talks a little bit about that. There will be more to that coming up, and I don't want to talk out of turn. Basically, but that is something that we do have a lot of emphasis on, because it is important to our members. It is important to our community. It is important to inside our ecosystem, outside the ecosystem. So we'll be addressing that more and more. Let me see what else I have for you. Woo! All right. If if you have not taken a look at This Week at FINOS, that oh, that was my wife pinging me. Um, if you heard that ding. So if you had not taken a look at This Week at FINOS before, This Week at FINOS is an email that we send out every Sunday going into Monday morning to our community. And there is a way to sign up for it. We will actually, we're working on taking that into a different format this year. But basically, we try to make sure that on a weekly basis that what is going on in the community, what is coming up in the community, especially if they're larger events or larger things that are happening within our community. But then um, what's great about it is that we have a calendar of open source project, FINOS open source project meetings that we put out every single week. And we tell you what project it is. There's a calendar invite every single time. There's a WebEx or if it's Zoom or WebEx, a link to actually join. And then there's usually an agenda or there's information about each one of those projects so that you can learn more about it, have a primer on it before you actually join. And we try to tell you some things that are happening within the project as well too, if we have the opportunity. So please make sure you check that out. It will be more and more important coming up as we have more projects that are coming online. We have more contributors and more community members that are getting involved. That we're trying to continually work on, if we can, get single sources of information for you to follow, but whether that's on our website through a calendar or in the actual repos and websites of the projects themselves, we just want to get you more involved. And if you have suggestions on how to better communicate with the community, if you have been getting This Week at FINOS or any of our emails as well, talking about the community, talking about events, talking about what we're doing inside this community, and you have you have ideas to make things better, please, again, reach out to marketing@finos.org. We'd love to talk to you folks. All right. So I have one last thing for you. And that is, wait for it. This year, as we've been working through, especially marketing strategy, we wanted to change some things up and change some things up in a good way for our community. And so while we were still working on the schedule of events for meetups, both online and in person, and we're working on a couple of meetups that are possible. There's one that's actually run by Scott Logic in the UK, but we're looking at a couple more possibilities for other locations as well, that they should be on the ground and be part of different sectors or different physical locations as well. More on that as they come online. But we have our event dates for 3 of our main events. The first one, oh, wait, I didn't even tell you. Open Source Strategy Forum, we've decided that it needed a name change because Open Source Strategy Forum, what does that mean? And so just like last year, we moved our podcasts and our webinars to focus more on financial services and more than just fintech. This year, we're focusing on finance. So the new name of our main conferences are now going to be called Open Source in Finance Forum, just like the podcast, just like the webinars and meetups. Our first one is going to be in London on July 13th. I believe that is a Wednesday. And what's really cool about July 13th in London is we are working to partner with FinTech Week London that will be going on that same week. I believe that their main conference is Monday and Tuesday, the 11th and 12th. Then we will be in the same location, I believe, on July 13th. And talking to the organizers, they were working on some other content as well for at least Thursday, if not Friday. So save the date for July 13th in London or for Open Source in Finance Forum, and also, again, FinTech Week London. And then our other Open Source in Finance Forum will be in New York, and it will be December 8th. I believe December 8th is, I believe that is a Thursday. So we've moved it just a little bit later back in the year, but we think that that will help to avoid a lot of holidays that happen in October and November, and then towards the middle and end of December. So join us December 8th for that. And then finally, we are working on our first and second quarter member meeting right now. And so more on that to come. However, in November, we will have our FINOS member meeting, and it will be either the 8th, 9th, or 10th of November. We're still working on that, but we're co-locating with the Linux Foundation Member Summit. The Linux Foundation Member Summit is in Lake Tahoe in the States. And again, all of our FINOS members are actually also Linux Foundation members as well. So please take part in your Linux Foundation membership as well as your FINOS membership and come to both of those meetings. We will have more information as we build that that event, but we wanted to go ahead and let you know that it will be that week, 8th through 10th of November, and come and join us for that, maybe for some skiing and snowboarding if you're into that. If not, just again, the hallway tracks for all of these events should be incredible this year. All right. I think I got through everything that I could. And I did it in one straight shot, which I don't normally do. So I appreciate you working with me on this one. If this was a good podcast, let me know. If this was a bad podcast, let me know too. I have no ego in this. I enjoy doing this. I'm going to record another podcast in the same room with my buddy tomorrow. It'll be on a totally different subject that we do every once in a while. So I hope you know that this is fun for me. I hope that you get something out of it because I'm sure that my boss would appreciate that. But this one's a debrief podcast. This is something that we'll do at the beginning of each month. And then our other podcasts that we're going to do throughout the month are going to change up, actually. We are working on some thought leadership podcasts, and we're lining up interviews for those right now. We're also working on some podcasts that specifically talk about our open source projects as well. So if you have ideas for how to, or content, I guess, but ideas for this podcast that relate to open source in financial services, and I do appreciate people reaching out to the podcast, but just like you all, I get some spam requests, often. But remember, we focus around FINOS members, open source and financial services, and open source readiness, how to prepare financial services firms and the entire ecosystem around them in order to get better at open source and financial services. That is the type of content that we're looking for. If that matters to you, if you have ideas on that, please contact me. Again, marketing@finos.org. And tell me what you're thinking of, and then we can set up a call, talk it through, and then we can and I can stop talking to myself. We'll also have some interviews with our team members as well. And then I'm really looking forward this year to some of our team members doing more podcasts, them doing interview. We did a couple last year and the year before, but I really am looking for that for this year. But I can only do it if I continue to, if we hire the marketing manager that we're looking for, that would help a lot. One more plug. So we'll be doing that. We'll also, we will repurpose some content sometimes when it's appropriate and when it's helpful too. So that will, that is how this podcast will change. And then I would say too, besides the regular content that we have, if there's something that we're missing, I'd really love to find out the ideas that you have. What do you care about? What, on a content level, or just like, is there something that we're missing that you would like to learn more about? Within the foundation, outside of the foundation, what's important to you, you listeners in Radio Land. So as always, reach out to me. I'll put everything in the show notes that I can. And I'm really looking forward to getting back into this year. I, again, hope you enjoyed it. And I'm going to leave it as I normally do. Oh, no, I forgot to tell you, subscribe to the podcast. This one I'm actually going to put on YouTube this time. So subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, subscribe to the podcast in Apple or Spotify or whatever podcast player that you use. Join us on finos.org. Join us through our Slack channels. Again, a lot of our community does talk back and forth in there as well. Join us at our project and SIG meetings. Again, there's anywhere from 3 to 7 of them going on every single week in FINOS. So I'll put links to all of that. And again, get involved with This Week at FINOS or our newsletters. Sign up for those so that way you can be on top of what's happening within the community. I think that was everything. I feel so out of practice, but I appreciate you taking this ride with me. Right? Okay. So with that, good day, good night, wherever you are.